Today, we're diving into a story that, according to this analysis, has been playing out in the shadows. It's the story of how a nuclear power was systematically taken apart, not on the battlefield, but in a way that most of us never even saw.
So this is the central question, right? It frames this whole situation less like a traditional war and more like a high-stakes spy thriller. How could a superpower like Russia be pushed towards the edge of collapse without a single soldier from the other side setting foot in the fight?
You see, while everyone's attention was glued to the front lines in Ukraine, the source material argues a much larger, almost invisible economic war has been raging. This is a conflict being fought in places you can't film, inside boardrooms, on trading floors, and deep within supply chains.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of this invisible war. We're not talking about tanks and planes here. We're talking about a conflict fought with money, intelligence, and some very powerful alliances.
Now, here's what's so fascinating. According to the analysis, this wasn't a plan that was made up on the fly. No, from the very beginning, Washington allegedly had a very clear two-part strategy designed to achieve one very specific outcome.
The approach was basically twofold. First, arm Ukraine to bog down Russia's military on the ground. But the second part is the real focus of this explainer, absolutely suffocating sanctions. And the source claims these weren't just about applying pressure. This was a full-scale economic offensive meant to totally rewrite the global power map.
And the objective, well, it couldn't have been clearer: to completely sever Russia from the global economy. The whole idea was to cripple their ability to fund the war and build modern weapons, basically pushing the entire country into total isolation.
So how did they actually pull this off? Well, the source breaks it down into a multi-front attack, hitting three of Russia's most vital economic pillars all at the same time. This is where you really start to see the invisible war take shape.
Front number one, energy. This was a huge deal. Europe used to be the biggest buyer of Russian gas, which meant a massive fire hose of cash for the Kremlin. That's been completely turned on its head. Now, Europe is leaning heavily on American LNG, and that single shift, the source argues, just permanently erased Moscow's most valuable customers.
Then came this second blow in this energy war. With what the source calls massive Western intelligence support, Ukrainian drones started hitting oil refineries deep inside Russia. This messed up their domestic fuel supply, prices at the pump shot up, and it meant ordinary Russians were now literally paying for the war at their own gas stations.
Now for the second front, technology. And honestly, this quote from the analysis just says it all. It sounds like something out of a bad action movie, right? But the source insists this is a documented reality. Russia's modern military was about to have its foundation crumble.
So what caused this? A full-on technological blockade. Sanctions went after these dual-use technologies, cutting off Russia's access to all those advanced Western microchips and components. Without those critical parts, the source says its entire military-industrial base just experienced a technological collapse. They simply couldn't produce modern weapons at scale anymore.
And that brings us to the third front of the attack, global arms sales. And this number, it's just staggering. A 53% drop. This represents the complete collapse of Russia as a global arms supplier, a title it held for decades.
You see, that tech collapse had this massive ripple effect. Russia's customers all over the world started getting nervous, and you can see it right here in the chart. As Russian exports just plummeted, sales from the US and France shot way up. Old clients wanted more reliable, more advanced gear, and they turned to new suppliers who are more than happy to step in and dominate the market Russia once owned.
Okay, so we've seen all this pressure coming from the outside. But what was happening inside Russia? The source argues that these economic attacks started causing a really serious crisis at home.
And there's maybe no better symbol of this internal decay than Russia's supposedly next-generation stealth fighter, the Su-57. It was meant to be this huge show of force, but instead it became a public case study in industrial failure. So at this major air show in China, people on social media just started picking it apart, pointing out these really embarrassing details. Like you could see exposed screws, the panels didn't fit together right. To the global defense world, this wasn't just sloppy work, it was a sign of a deep collapse in manufacturing quality.
The verdict from the source here is just brutal. The Su-57, they say, simply doesn't belong in the same conversation as the American F-35 or F-22. That comparison just hammers home the widening technological gap that this economic war has supposedly created.
And this is just how far things have fallen. All those industrial and tech problems, symbolized by the Su-57's issues, they've left some deep scars. A country that used to arm half the planet is now, according to the source, forced to go begging to sanctioned states like Iran and North Korea for basic military supplies. I mean, what a shocking reversal of fortune.
And this crisis isn't just about the military. It's hitting ordinary Russian citizens right in the wallet. The government, under immense pressure to fund the war, jacked up the value-added tax to 22%. That is a direct hit on people's ability to buy things, which the source suggests is a huge gamble that risks real frustration from within. So, after all of that, what's the final verdict from this analysis? Let's pull all these threads together and look at the big picture assessment of where Russia stands now as a global power.
The summary is pretty stark. From its economy and energy revenues to its military industry and tech base, the source concludes that pretty much every single pillar of Russian power has taken a devastating hit.
And this brings us to the bottom line, the core thesis of this whole thing, that Washington successfully used this cocktail of sanctions, alliances, and energy leverage to dismantle a rival superpower. Not a single bullet was fired by an American soldier, and yet the impact was absolutely profound.
And that leaves us with these final, really provocative questions from the source material. Is this the beginning of the end for Russia as a great power? Did this economic war actually achieve what a hot war never could? It's a powerful thought to end on, and one that really reframes this entire conflict.